In a French bank named Istanbul, Bank in the Swiss, in Istanbul, I was working as a senior credit analyst. My boss was in the general management of Bank in the Swiss in Paris. We were communicating by mail, but I had never met him face to face. After a few months, he came to Istanbul for a few days. We were going to meet for the first time. And him being my boss, I wanted to make a good impression on him. We went into a room, and he said, Rasih, or Monsieur Bensan, he was saying, Monsieur Bensan, I like your credit analysis reports, but there are some 5 companies that I would like you to tell me more about. I said, sure, ask me and I'll tell you. So he asked me the companies. And I was so eager to make a good impression that I started telling him everything I knew about the company, its activities, its management, its credit risk, why I thought it was a credit risk, the financial analysis. And 2 minutes after I started explaining, he said, I get it, Mr. Bensan. I said, no, you cannot get it yet. I haven't told you everything about the company yet. I said, that's enough for me. No, it cannot be enough for you. There are some important things I need to tell you. So I continued talking for 10 minutes. I wanted to make a good, I wanted to tell him, I wanted to show him that I knew so much about the company, that I was a brilliant financial analyst. I had to make a good impression because he was my boss. Then finally, after 10 minutes, I started talking about the second company he asked me about. But then I said, oh, wait, I forgot something. I forgot to say this about the first company, so I started talking about the first company again. And it went on like this. 5 companies. Instead of making 2-minute summaries, I talked for at least 10 minutes about each company. And I was proud of myself because I showed him how much I knew, what brilliant analyses I made. At the end of 50 minutes, my talk was finished. So was my boss. I said, Monsieur, I've been talking for 15 minutes. You've just been listening. Why do you look so tired? That evening, at the cocktail at Bank in the Swiss Istanbul branch, I overheard him speak to somebody. He said, Monsieur Bensan is quite a good credit analyst, but I wish he also learned not to speak so much. The most common communication mistake that many people make in business, social, and love lives is over-explaining. For example, in a job interview, the most common question is, tell me about yourself, or tell us about your work experience. What most people do is they make an icebreaker speech, which is appropriate for Toastmasters, but it's too long and too much irrelevant information for a job interview. What should be done is to give a 2-minute summary, and if the interviewer is interested, he will ask questions for additional information. Some people object. They say, oh, I have so much work experience, I have to tell the interviewer everything. If I don't tell him everything, he will not know how experienced I am, and I will not get the job. No. What is most important is to be able to summarize in 2 minutes. Because when you over-explain, you are showing the interviewer that you have poor communication skills, that you are over-explaining, that you are desperate to make a good impression. The most common dating mistake that men and women make on a date is over-explaining. Talking too much. Talking anxiously. Why? Because of the anxiety to make a good impression on the other person. But the more you talk, the more you get buried in, I better not say, you make a bad impression. Over-explaining. What should we do instead? Just make a summary. I mean, She asks him, what do you think about the coronavirus? Oh, let me tell you about that. It goes on and on and on for 10 minutes. When is this guy going to shut up? And why? Because we are after external validation. We care too much about what other people think. We don't get the validation from ourselves, we get it externally. And that's why we're desperate. That's why we have a tendency to overtalk. It comes out as desperate. Instead of creating a good impression, we create a bad impression. Now, what has all this got to do with Toastmasters? And why make an educational speech about this in Toastmasters? Good question. The communication skills that we develop here in Toastmasters as public speakers, many of them are relevant in all the business and social interactions we do, not just in public speaking. Many of them. And one of them is the most common mistake, over-explaining. Here in Toastmasters and public speakers, we learn to get to the point, to organize a speech, to not talk too much, not talk too fast, not to over-explain. It's up to us to use this, not only in public speaking, but in every business and social interactions that we get into. So, use what you learn here in Toastmasters in your private business and social lives. Do not over-explain. Thank you.
I have a question, if permitted.